Hello guys and gals of the internet, I'm the Super Chaos of YouTube, Twitch TV and Mixer.com, and we are here for what has been a yearly tradition for some time now. We are at Season 5 of my kind of career mode tradition for the latest FIFA game. We are at FIFA 18 and the 5th season in a row that I'm doing this. Now you might actually instantly notice that this is actually starting a lot later than previous seasons. That's because this is actually a restart, because during some recordings during the season, I actually learned that I had problems with my capture card and the commentary audio in particular. I won't go into too many details in this video. If you want to know the full kind of situation, then check out my channel update of November 27th, 2017. I posted a video explaining my problems and the reason I have gone back to an Elgato HD60 original, which is what I'm using to record this video right now and will be using for the foreseeable future until things change in a way that I need to get another one, i.e. this one breaks or whatever. So, welcome to the restart of this playthrough. Hopefully it's going to be a bit of a smoother ride now that I've kind of tested everything. I've streamed, I've recorded, I've done all the kind of necessary testing. It all seems to work out so far, although for this video I am doing a second take because after previewing the video whilst editing it, the frame rate was choppy as hell for whatever reason. I think it might have been because I was uploading a video at the time of recording, and the recording actually took a while. It was 2 hours in total. I'm not sure why that is. I've turned the preview screen off as well because I don't particularly need it because it is delayed by a second. Anyway, in regards to the HD60 Pro, which has instant game view, the HD60 original does not. So I'm going to have to get used to turning it off. Anyway, here we are for a manager career, as you would expect. What I will do after kind of loading up the information is I'm just going to quickly load up my latest save that I've already created, and we'll just go through the squad quickly. So hopefully this will be a nice quick video and it won't take too long because I would have already done all the stuff I wanted to do. So this is all kind of traditional stuff that I would do. And obviously we're going to pick Manchester United as they are my favourite team. Now, if you guys have not seen the pre-season part 1 video that I did months ago, long story short, the storyline is that Jose Mourinho left his position as manager of Manchester United 2 days after winning the Europa League final, leaving Manchester United pretty much in a state of shock. They had no plans to replace Jose with any other person. They were going to keep him on for the following season. The team was seeing improvement under him, and he just leaves. Now, I haven't really thought of a reason yet, and I don't think I ever will, so it'll be kind of reasons unknown. I mean, the most concrete story in real life, which is more than just a rumor at this point, is that he could be leaving for PSG. I mean, that could be a legit thing, but as of right now, I really have kind of wrapped my head around trying to give a reason that doesn't say I don't like Jose, because that's not true. A lot of people probably like Jose, a lot of people don't. I'm not in the I don't like category, but I couldn't really think of another reason. I didn't want to give him health troubles. I didn't want to say I could have said he was leaving for another team, but that just sounds really cliche. You know, that's what normally happens. And Manchester United had no intentions to sack him. So he kind of left Manchester United in a bit of a crisis, really. You know, the manager search was a bit of a tough one this time around. You know, Manchester United, such high expectations for the club, and they'd probably be expected to make a high manager appointment, so to speak, but there aren't really much of those in the world of football anymore. It's all kind of new up-and-coming managers. But weirdly enough, Manchester United have found their solution. It's not going to be the most popular one, but this is a storyline, guys. This is FIFA 18. This is my kind of story. And it involves a former coach of an NBA basketball team. And you already know from the preseason who that is. The former San Antonio Spurs head coach, Gregg Popovich. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. I am bringing my favorite coach into my favorite team for FIFA 18. Oh my god. Only possible through video games. I think it would be a perfect match in real life, except for the fact that Gregg Popovich knows probably next to nothing about, I have to say, soccer, because he's American. So he probably knows next to nothing, but this is a video game. I'm doing it for him, I guess, in a way. I wanted to do this basically because I wanted to make a different kind of storyline. I wanted to kind of branch out a little bit and kind of do my own storyline a little. You know, I didn't want to... It's not because... I'm not doing this because I don't like Jose as the manager or anything like that, because that's not the case. But I just thought I'd do it just to be different. You know, traditionally when it comes to FIFA, I'm not one of those FIFA YouTubers that does Ultimate Team or a career mode in post-com or live-com or whatever. And obviously, the bit of a twist on it for me is that I do broadcast-style commentary. Now, broadcast-style commentary over the last couple of years is not really a unique thing anymore. You know, everyone's doing it with their universe mode, and all the universe modes are freaking awesome. MERSYT13, go check him out. Cheeky little plug there, and probably follow some of his friends as well, because he has many friends that do universe mode on WWE 2K18 now. So broadcast style commentary isn't really a unique thing anymore, but as you guys probably have known, I've mentioned it a couple of times over the last couple of years that I am a huge Murray Walker fan. He's a huge inspiration to do that sort of stuff. It's kind of a passion of mine, really, in a way, but a passion I'd probably never be able to fulfill as a job, so I do it through the means of YouTube and video games instead. It's kind of my way of doing it. So we're just going to quickly go through the settings here. I'm not going to put this on because, of course, I'm going to be loading up my save that I've already done. All the European squads are correct. I will show you the groups when we get to that point. I've used current customized to put myself into the game as a Manchester United player. And obviously, if you guys are aware, my story is that I joined the club I think it was in the 2005-06 season, because of FIFA 2005 was the first game you actually got to create yourself, or a custom player as it were, and add them to whatever team you please. So I've actually used that storyline and created myself every year since, and used that as a storyline to put myself into the game. So I can actually mention myself and maybe some life situations that could be going on in my life. Not that my life is very exciting, so I guess I don't really have that much to mention. So, yeah, that's another unique thing I have over probably most career modes, is that number one, I do broadcast style commentary, and number two, I actually have myself as part of the team. So we're not really going to advance here, because I'm going to show you all the stuff we have in here. Actually, I'll probably just do that quickly and just show you what the email system is. Let's just actually skip that because we're not doing it. I'm just going to show you, I guess I don't have to show you what the emails are actually, to be fair, so I'm actually probably just going to back out and load up my save, because we'll be able to see the objectives and stuff anyway, so, oops, 2 seconds. So as I said, all I've done really is load up my save that I used on my previous attempt to record this before I noticed the footage was botched and the frames per second went down the toilet, but in any case, it's the same kind of objectives as last year if you became manager of Manchester United. Obviously, it's going to be highly critical to be successful. You are manager of Manchester United. This is a very interesting one in the youth development. And as you may see, that last session I recorded actually gave me the secondary objective, which was to sign at least 2 players younger than 20 years old with potential greater than the average overall rating of players currently in the same position. I know that sounds very convoluted, and that's because it is. I'm not even sure how I achieved it, but I will certainly take it. The other objective here is to sign 1 youth player into the senior team in the same season they were scouted, so using the youth staff system that was implemented last year. Play them in 5 matches, either as part of a starting 11 or coming on as a sub. Now, I did utilize this to some degree last season, and found 2 absolute gems in Ollie Cox and Hugh Cooper. So if we run into them again, I'm immediately signing them up. I don't think that'll be the case, but if your names do come up on the screen, I'm immediately signing you because of it. Brand exposure obviously is critical, as we are Manchester United. 175 million from shirt sales earnings, I believe that is. I could have botched that number completely because I'm not great at maths. No financial objectives because Manchester United are hella rich, although we are run by the Glazers, and that wouldn't say so, but whatevs. The board literally expects Gregg Popovich to win the treble this season. I'm not even kidding. Look at that. Win the league title and win the FA Cup. And continental success is win the Champions Cup, aka the Champions League, which is licensed in pairs, and that's why FIFA calls it the Champions Cup, of course. Just quickly, I do already have a youth scout on board. I need to send him out before we start the first match. But that's the only guy I need because I don't think the other ones are anything really good. No, that one is garbage. Yeah, not really a great selection after that. So I took this guy on board and that's the only guy I need. But the reason I did that was mostly because of the signings, which we will go into in just a second as we have a look at the squad hub. Alright, so the big information is in the squad hub this year. You're going to get a full rundown of the squad and the signings I have made, because I have made quite a few. Whereas last time I actually recorded this with the HD60 Pro before I realized that the audio glitches that were in it, or the commentary audio kind of crackleness and disorientation of it, I actually just signed, I think it was Gazi, Zardes, and I think it might have been just Zardes. But having a look at the squad in more depth of my first recording, I've actually noticed a couple of weaknesses we had. And it's really in the wide positions. Now, Manchester United, to a degree, have a lot of squad depth in terms of versatility. Say, Chris Smalling at right back, Daley Blind at left back. We don't really have many natural wingers or wing backs per se. We don't have a lot of right backs, left midfielders or right midfielders. So I actually got one of each position in as much as possible. Now the big story I'm going with this year is that Manchester United, because of the signing of Gregg Popovich, have basically, the board has come out and said, look, it's not gone well for us. We've had big money signings like Angel Di Maria that didn't work out. We've had managers employed on big CVs like Louis van Gaal or Jose Mourinho, and they didn't work out. Manchester United basically announcing at this point, now we've signed Gregg Popovich as our head coach. By the way, Gregg Popovich is the head coach, not the manager. I'm not really sure what the difference is. I think the head coach has less to do than the manager does. But I guess as Gregg Popovich is very familiar with the head coach position, that would be the best role to put him into. But because of the signing of a completely unknown manager, we are announcing at this point that Manchester United is now in rebuild. That's right. Now, the board has obviously told us to win the treble, but kind of the story I'm kind of starting with for this year, and I'm hoping to turn this thing with Gregg Popovich into a bit of a yearly series for a while, maybe running on a contract of maybe 3 to 5 years. It depends how long FIFA keeps coming out, obviously. But the kind of start with this first season in this story, and I'm saying like future FIFA games because, as you know, I don't do multiple seasons in the same game because generally I buy the next FIFA anyway because I don't know, it's just a thing I'm used to doing, I suppose. So I don't really do multiple seasons in the same game. I might even try it this year, I don't know. I keep saying I will and then I don't really end up doing it, but maybe I will, maybe I won't, I'm not sure. But generally, I do buy the next FIFA anyway. So there's no real need to do multiple seasons in the same game if I'm going to buy next year's one and do it again anyway. Because I love doing this playthrough. It's been so fun the last 4 or 5 seasons we've done so far. So basically the story is that Manchester United officially now is in rebuild. And I really think in real life, Manchester United really need to do a rebuild. I really do think, and I really do wholeheartedly agree, that David Moyes should have stayed on beyond the 10 months he was given by the team. Now, with David Moyes, it was a bit of a different scenario because he literally inherited the squad that won the league title the season before in Ferguson's last season. So, obviously, the circumstances were a bit different, but I think the moment Ferguson left, I think what Manchester United really should have done is gone into rebuild mode. Come out and say, look, we've got a lot of, not dead wood, but aging players, or dead wood if you want to use a term for it. We have a lot of dead wood or aging players that we need to kind of clear out. We need to We need to buy some young players. Obviously, the market is tough with Manchester City being able to buy whoever they want and stuff like that. So maybe we should actually start thinking about rebuilding rather than continue spending to succeed, because as you know, at this point, Manchester United have spent an abundance of money since Ferguson left, and like I said, it's barely ever worked out. You know, with the whole Angel Di Maria situation, the situation with Falcao, and then Louis van Gaal buys Memphis and then doesn't play him at all. Bastian Schweinsteiger comes in, Rojo comes. Like, a couple of Louis van Gaal signings have been really impressive, like Marcus Rojo. But Angel Di Maria obviously didn't work out. Memphis didn't work out. Schneiderlin didn't work out. And Manchester United have been spending an abundance of money, and it's just not been working. They've been employing managers on impressive CVs, and that obviously hasn't worked either. You know, Jose Mourinho kind of left, as it were, in this storyline 2 days after winning the Europa League final. So, with the appointment of Gregg Popovich, basically Manchester United are announcing that they're in now rebuild mode. And with Gregg Popovich, they're looking for stability. It's a 3-year kind of head coach contract. Obviously, they have the right to contract termination if the performances don't go their way, but there's going to be some leniency because, obviously, for a couple of reasons, Greg knows very little about soccer or football, as it were. And like I said, there's still a lot of kind of dead wood that needs kind of not clearing out, because I'm not going to make any sellings in this playthrough. I've already made my signings, but I've not really sold anybody. I'm going to try and use everything at our disposal. But Gregg Popovich has given some leeway. The board has said we're looking for a stable situation before we make any really big improvements. We need to kind of stabilize it. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride, a bit of a shambles with 4 manager appointments in the last 4 seasons. It's been a bit of a shake around a lot and turned into a bit of a shambles. And the squad's not been performing and whatnot. So it's a good time to take a step back. Manchester United telling the fans, let's take a step back. We know we've been spoiled with 26 years of success, but we know it had to come to an end eventually. And we're announcing today that we are kind of rebuilding. We're going to work with the assets we have, but most of the signings are going to be young players that we feel that would be good enough in the future. And that's what I've done. Most of the signings that I have made are relatively young players, and that's what we're going to focus on. Now, Gregg Popovich is rather fond of the young player. If you remember the likes of Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker when they were young, and Kawhi Leonard could even attest to this as well. Gregg Popovich knows how to nurture young players and make them stars, and he did that. He's done that with almost everybody that he's ever put into the team through the draft and such in the NBA. Now, obviously, football is a lot different to the NBA. Football doesn't have drafts, so Greg can't do that. So one thing he has done, as he's put a young scout on board, obviously not the one I've used yet, and I'll do that later, but he obviously has another scout that is a pretty young player kind of scout person, to kind of walk him through the best young talent in the world of football at the moment. And that's who Greg has bought, alongside the likes of Lukaku and Matic and Lindelof, who were already kind of picked around the time Jose left. I guess he made a list and he wanted to do it, and then something happened and he left. So, looking at the squad report, you'll probably see some very unfamiliar names. There are basically... What I've done is cover at the wing positions. Like I said, this is going really long. I do apologize. But basically, it is at the wing positions where we are to our weakest. We have cover at centre-back. We have cover at striker with the return of Ibrahimovic and such and so forth, with Wilson and Deliri being young strikers as well. The one thing I will say is that I will not be using me, Rojo or Zlatan until our return dates, as it were. I'm going to kind of keep it as realistic as possible. So, in a manner of speaking, Rojo and Zlatan will still be recovering from their ligament damage injuries that they suffered in the Europa League last season, and their return dates will be at Newcastle. For me, I had an ingrowing toenail for the first month of the season, so I will miss out the whole entire month and return to the game against Liverpool. I think that was because that's when it fully healed up. And the week before, I was at my unofficial sister-in-law's wedding, so I wouldn't have played that weekend either. So there's that. So let's have a look at the whole squad in full, and I'll tell you about the signings I've made. So David De Gea, obviously a shoe-in in goal. Obviously, nothing really more to say. He's the best goalkeeper in the world at the moment, and he's a shoe-in. Dean Henderson is on loan at Shrewsbury. It's a name I've heard so many times, but it's never really played, so I don't really know what to think of him. But he's on loan at Shrewsbury, so we won't have to worry about him. Same with Sam Johnston, he's been around for years. I thought he'd actually been sold to Aston Villa, but apparently he's on loan there. But I could have sworn he was sold. I'm not really sure why that hasn't said that. I guess this is the most recent update of the game, by the way. Today is December 22nd, and this is the most recent squads I could get, so I decided to use those. But I'm pretty sure Sam Johnston was sold. I can't really remember, but he's on loan at Aston Villa in any case. Now, with Joel Pierre, it's difficult because in FIFA, keepers rarely get injured in FIFA. You can use David De Gea for the entire season if you want. You know, it's very unlikely you'll have to swap out your goalkeeper unless you're in the Carabao Cup and you have a weak side per se, then you could throw Joel Pierre in goal. But Joel Pierre is someone that Jose Mourinho in real life actually really is quite fond of. And and you'll notice maybe with some players that have point increases, I've actually used the training feature throughout the summer break to train up some players, and that's why you'll probably see the stat increases there. But Joel Pierre, I kind of really like him for some reason, so I'm going to keep him there and maybe play him in Carabao Cup games and things like that. Sergio Romero, obviously a great number 2 to David De Gea, and I actually think these two are going to be the future of Manchester United pretty soon, because as I've said for the last couple of seasons, I think we need to plan for life after David De Gea, because honestly, I do think this at some point David De Gea will go to Spain, either to play for Atletico or even Real Madrid or even Barcelona. I personally think David De Gea, maybe in the next few seasons, will be at a Spanish club playing in Spain, because he's literally carrying this Manchester United team, and like I said at the end of last season, I wouldn't be surprised if he's sick of it. So I think more than likely, sooner rather than later, we'll having to plan for life after David De Gea. Fortunately, these two are more than good enough to fill that void, but Sergio Romero is now 30, so I wonder if Joel Pierre will actually get some decent runs in when we know De Gea is leaving, because we're going to have to get this guy into form, as it were. But I think Romero will be the number 1 for a few years, and then Joel Pierre will take over after that. Now, first new signing is at right back. It is Benjamin Hendricks. Basically, he's from Bayer Leverkusen, and what I did was I used the kind of info that they have on the screen, and he was showing great potential at Bayer Leverkusen as a right back. Now, right back is one of our weakest positions. We only have Antonio Valencia and Matteo Darmian who play there naturally. Now, weirdly for Valencia, he's been a right winger for so many years, but has done better at right back, weirdly enough. I'm not really Darmian's biggest fan, though. I never really have been. I don't think really Darmian has really done something to stand out. I don't mean that as in I don't like Darmian. I just don't think he's really done anything that really makes him stand out big time. And with Manchester United rebuild mode, Benjamin Hendricks is 20, so it makes sense to bring in a youngster and some cover as well for one of the positions we're very weak at. So that's the reason for Benjamin Hendricks. Matteo Darmian, as I just explained earlier. Antonio Valencia, obviously, he's on the other side of 30 now, he's 32, so that's another reason for Hendricks as well, is Antonio Valencia is getting on, and he'll be probably declining pretty soon, unless he doesn't, I'm not sure. He's still an 83 though, amazingly enough. Eric Bailly, obviously mainstay and centre-back, an absolute beast, alongside Phil Jones, one of my favourite players in this Manchester United squad. Unfortunately, he's made a paper, so I would assume with the very high risk of injuries that we had last year, the injuries haven't changed from last year. I don't expect to be playing Phil Jones much at all, because he's one of those injury-prone players, unfortunately. Tuifufuzu Mensah is very much a disappointment move from Jose Mourinho for me. One of the things that really annoyed me about Jose Mourinho was him sending Tuifufuzu Mensah out on loan. Now, I can understand this. to a degree, because he raves on about Lord Fellaini and how great he is, and for some reason everyone else seems to follow suit because it's Jose Mourinho. I don't know what everyone sees in Fellaini that I don't, but whatevs. But Timothy Mensah for me is just... I don't know what Jose's thinking. This kid is a beast, but I guess at the end of the day, he's probably not going to get much playing time at Manchester United with such a stacked squad, to be fair. So maybe getting some time at Crystal Palace is a good idea, although I don't think Roy Hodgson has really utilised him either, which really annoys me. I don't know why no one is using this kid. Someone play him, please, because he could be off somewhere else. He could do a Paul Pogba, end up somewhere else, and then end up turning into an absolute world star, because I do see this guy actually doing that. Chris Smalling, not really his biggest fan. He's a bit of a blunder, but obviously we need some cover for the likes of Rojo, and like I said with Marcus Rojo, and we'll be losing him till later to kind of make it as realistic as possible, so he will be out injured for the last couple of months or so. But Delaney Love, bright future. He's had a bit of a shaky start in real life. I'm not really sure how he is in the game. I didn't really utilise him that much during my first recordings. I don't think he was too bad. Phil Jones, to that actually, was an absolute beast. He was absolutely tearing it up when I was first playing the game. So it was rather unfortunate to see Phil Jones playing so well and then having to restart the playthrough. I was kind of gutted because Phil Jones was absolutely insane when he was doing that, so hopefully that still carries over. So with Lindelof is a kind of work in progress. Axel Tuanzebe showing great potential, and we all know what I think of him from last season. Roshan Williams was actually one of the people that actually came in through a squad update, and I think people have mentioned him a couple of times. It is a name I kind of recognize, but as in terms of how good he is, I don't really know. But we've already improved him by one through use of the training. Cameron Bulford-Jackson was another thing that really annoyed me about Jose Mourinho, was loaning out Cameron Bulford-Jackson and not Joe Riley. I never really understood that. Bulford-Jackson is very promising. Unfortunately, we can't increase his skills because he's on loan at Leeds United. I think what I'm probably going to do, most likely, is do what I did last season and recall Bulford-Jackson and Fuzi Mensah from their loan spells in January, depending on injuries. Because injuries were very common last year. I don't know how they are this year, though. I don't think I had many. I think I had one. I think it was to Pogba, and he was out for a couple of weeks, I think. Luke Shaw is really coming into his own all of a sudden. He's had a few blinding good games this season in real life. He was rather ostracised by Jose Mourinho, because Jose Mourinho likes to do that. He ostracised players for no apparent reason, which is one of the things I'm not really fond of him for doing, especially after the Bastian Schweinsteiger situation. I was really mad at him for that one. Joe Riley, like I said, I don't know why he's not out on loan and Cameron Bulford-Jackson is, because, Bulford-Jackson was a 70. I don't know why he's gone down to 69. That's kind of stupid. I don't know why they've done that. But Joe Riley is still worse than Bulford-Jackson, so I don't know. I know we're only going by FIFA ratings, and that's not important. But you'd think Bulford-Jackson being the more promising player would, Joe Riley would go out on loan. Dimitri Mitchell's another left-back who's not gone out on loan, but I think this kid featured a couple of times towards the end of last season when all the kids came on and tore up Crystal Palace. I think Dimitri Mitchell was a name that kind of rang a bell, and I think obviously increased his skill by one already with use of the training. I'm going to be really utilising that a lot this year. Ryan Bertrand, obviously from Southampton, was cheap as chips for £17 million. Basically as cover for left back, because as you know, we don't have a lot of actual natural left backs that are really kind of decent. Obviously, Joe Riley and Dimitri Mitchell are up and comers. Shaw is still recovering from his injury. Ryan Bertrand has already had the experience and the playing time at Southampton. So obviously that's good. That's a good buy for £17 million. And obviously there's me, obviously missing for the first month due to my ingrowing toenail and sister-in-law wedding. Michael Carrick, obviously getting on a little bit now. He's on the other side of 30. He's actually approaching his 40s, and he's 36. He's an overall of 80, which makes no sense. I don't know why he's that high considering his age. But Michael Carrick in real life is struggling with heart rhythm problems. I believe he had an operation, which actually wasn't that bad. He felt a bit funny at the Burton game in the Carabao Cup. and he's had some tests, and it's been figured that he has an irregular heart rhythm or something, and he's had the operation to kind of calm that down. I wouldn't be surprised if he's fitted with a pacemaker at some point. Isn't like heart problems a real common thing for footballers? I think you need to really get checked, because too many people are suffering heart problems or, kind of passing away through heart attacks and heart problems in football. It's becoming a bit of a common thing. I think if you're going to play football, get your heart checked, because it seems to be a common thing going around at the moment. It's kind of scary. Nemanja Matic, obviously former Jose Mourinho man, signed from Chelsea in just one of the unbelievable signings of the summer. Why Chelsea would let Matic go to one of their biggest rivals just astounded me when I heard about it. I mean, I was certainly going to take it, and he's certainly proven his worth, but I don't know why Chelsea would do that. They're insane. But it doesn't matter anyway, because Manchester United are clearly not challenging for the league title, with City just absolutely bossing at the moment. It pains me to say that, but I guess it's the truth. Daley Blind has been kind of raved about for his intelligence to the game, but apart from that, I haven't really seen much of Daley Blind because of Fellaini and Young being constantly picked at various, well, not that Blind plays left midfield, but yeah, it just seems Fellaini's just, you're going to play Pogba, obviously. So that fills up one spot, and then Fellaini more or less takes the others. I mean, God, you know what? With Marouane Fellaini, I've kind of just gone with the if you can't beat them, join them attitude. I guess I'm just accepting him at Manchester United now, because, like I said, who wants Marouane Fellaini on their team when he offers nothing? But I don't know, I guess I'm kind of being defeatist at this point. If you can't beat him, join him. I mean, I'm not absolutely raving about Fellaini because I think he's useless. But everyone else is seeing something I'm not. I'm not sure what that is, but fuck it. Like I said, I'm making no sales anyway, regardless of that, so it doesn't really matter. Regan Paul, been around it for years, currently at loan at Northampton, and that's about it. Jesse Lingard, huge fan of Jesse Lingard compared to everyone else who fucking hates him because they're stupid, I guess. No, it's really stupid how people rave about how bad Jesse Lingard is. Yeah, he offers about 200% more than Fellaini does, but I've already said that before. I've already said my piece about Jesse Lingard in previous seasons. I think he's an important match winner, but I don't know what everyone... It's like everyone raves about Fellaini despite him being bad, and hate Jesse Lingard despite him being actually decent. I don't know why that's happening. Manchester United fans are just a really odd bunch at this point. I think this kind of period of Manchester United's period recently has kind of reared its ugly head in terms of the fans, but who knows. Henry Mkhitaryan in real life is being one of those rumoured to be out the door in January, which is weird. I've not really noticed anything unusual about Mkhitaryan. I guess he's just had a bad run of games, and Jose's reached the end of his tether with him. And Jose is one of those ruthless managers, in a sense, even though the players normally beat him to the punching down the tools. That's what normally happens. I've brought back Wilfried Zaha to Manchester United. Basically, there's going to be a bit of a story involving him. The story is that he hears that Gregg Popovich is a fan of the young player and wants to give his Manchester United career one last shot. We actually got him for $30.5 million, which I thought was a bit much, but we were able to do it anyway. So Wilfried Zaha wants to give his career at Manchester United one last shot. This is the third time he's joined, and Gregg Popovich has promised him some playing time due to the current situation of having a lack of wingers. As you can see, we only have three right wingers, being natural there, of course. Scott McTominay, for me, is actually looking really impressive. He seems to really look good at his age. And already, as you can see, we've already increased him by 1 due to the trading. Matty Wilcock is on loan at Utrecht, I think that is. I think it's in the Indonesia in Holland, I think. So, not much known about him. Ander Herrera, who's going to be the captain of my squad due to Ander Herrera being the preferred option alongside Michael Carrick because of Michael Carrick's increasing age. His heart problems probably will feature a couple of times during the season, but I don't think it's going to be a real bad issue that he has to deal with. But Ander Herrera is basically my captain, with me being the vice when I eventually return from injury. Deontay Redmond is on loan at Scunthorpe United, and that's all I know. I think he might have played at the end of last season, but I'm not really sure. Ashley Young, one of those players I absolutely hate at Manchester United, but again, if you can't beat him, join him. Who's going to want him? Nobody, and he's already decreased by 2, which is quite funny. Now, this young man is a Stoke player, Ramadan Sobi. I'm going to really butcher that name a lot this season. He's one of those that obviously show great potential in the left midfield position for Stoke, and Stoke let him go for £9 million. So, absolute bargain. And another 20-year-old youngster. And as I've said, Manchester United are in rebuild this season, so it's good to get some young players in. And another left midfielder. As we're already missing one by Andreas Pereira, why is this man not starting and not being a regular starter for Manchester United is absolutely beyond me. But Jose Mourinho doesn't like young players, and that's one of the things that kind of put me off his appointment, but everyone went with the CV instead. Yeah, great, that's really worked out, isn't it? Anyway, Andreas Pereira, 79 overall, should be starting, should be a Manchester United star by now, but no one sees in what everyone else does, I'm not sure. Angel Gomez, aka the midget, and it shows. He's 5'6", he's probably shorter than me. And is probably the biggest up-and-comer at the club right now. It was quite funny how it came out that Angel Gomez liked a Manchester City tweet and then signed a professional contract with United like a week later. I find that quite weird, to be honest. I'm not really sure how that works, but, it's good that he's signed for us, really, because, yeah, the guy's going to be a future star if Jose actually utilises him. One matter, very surprised that he's still here. Like I said last season, I thought he would have been the first man out the door, but nope, and he's still here. That kind of surprises me. Paul Pogba, absolutely sensational, the one man of this team. But it's made us a one-man team, but what can you do? It's Paul Pogba, he's yeah. It's quite funny, though, because everyone was slandering him last season, and now it's like, oh, we can't play and win without him. It's really funny how fickle Manchester United fans have become recently. Zachary Delaney, know very little about him. Probably played at the end of last season, and that's about it. Romelu Lukaku, obviously the big man from Everton, has been getting slaughtered, as you do when you're a big man at Manchester United. You get instantly slaughtered for not scoring in a game or two, because that's how Manchester United fans act, I guess. But that's what I've been saying. Big names for big wages and big transfer fees. It's not working, and it's still not working, and they're getting slandered for it, and that's the case with Lukaku. Because Zardes is probably a player everyone has bought in FIFA 18. Cheap as chips, a kind of third or fourth striker option, and can also play on the wings as well. James Wilson has been around forever. Marcus Rashford, the man in FIFA 17, who was insanely overpowered. And I don't even have to upgrade Marcus Rashford this year because he's already in 81. I'm expecting him to be massively overpowered and score a bunch of goals because he's that good in FIFA for some reason. I mean, I'm certainly going to take it. He's on my team. Anthony Martial, why is he playing on the left? Why are these two playing on the left? I have no idea. Jose is kind of doing the Louis van Gaal thing, where he's playing these players out of position. Why? It makes no sense. And Zlatan Ibrahimovic, obviously the beast, is not going to win that league title he wants to do because Manchester City are so far out in front. So that is pretty much it for the squad report. And this is how we will line up. And it looks like a very controversial kind of team, I know. But like I said, United are in rebuild mode. With all the big kind of signings not working, we're going with a bit of a younger squad per se. So it's going to be Rashford and Martial up front. Now the reason for that isn't really because Lukaku is bad, not in real life. But Lukaku is very not that great in FIFA. As you can see, Lukaku is an 86. Now, in my first kind of playthrough with the capture card that ended up kind of messing with the commentary, and that's why I switched, Lukaku went through this string about 5 games without scoring. I used him as the lone striker for the first maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. And it didn't really work. After the Swansea game, he scored 2 in 2, at West Ham and Swansea, and then didn't score for a run of games somehow. And at one point, I think it was in the second or third Champions League group game, that I put Rashford up there, and he immediately scored on his Champions League debut. Go figure. And then what I decided to do was actually put Lukaku up front with Rashford, and Lukaku was instantly made better. It was almost like in real life kind of scenario where Lukaku benefited from Rashford being on the pitch. I'm not really sure how that worked, but it did. And what I decided to do is play Rashford and Martial probably up front for the first game of the season, because a lot of people actually want to see these two up front together rather than Lukaku right now because he's in a funk. So people want to see Martial and Rashford up front together, but Jose doesn't seem to be paying any attention to what anybody says, because that's what Jose does, I guess. So I've gone with Sobi up front because I don't like Ashley Young. So that's the main reason for that, quite frankly. Herrera, obviously in the middle of the park with Pogba as the captain. I might have to change this up a little bit because Pogba is probably not... He's a cam somehow. I guess that does make sense. Pogba does like playing behind the strikers. I feel I might have to change that. Maybe to a 4-4-2, like attacking thing. Have we got that here? Now that I'm thinking about it. There's a narrow one. I don't really want the narrow one too much. I might go with that. It puts Pogba at cam. I might actually go with that now that I think about it. So we'll put him on the left. Zaha on the right there. And then swap Pogba and Herrera around. I might go for that, because then it puts Pogba in a better position, helping the two strikers out. So Zaha on the right, as you can see, because I like Jesse Lingard, but I think he'd probably be a better impact player off the bench rather than a starter, whereas Zaha really is a starter at this point for Crystal Palace anyway. And Herrera, obviously the captain there, and the defense is Bertrand with... Hendricks on the fullback positions with Jones and Bailly in the centre. Like I said, I'm not really a big fan of Darmian, and Valencia is going to need to be rested, so I think for the most part I might play Hendricks more than Valencia. It depends how that'll go. I'm going to try out the majority of youngsters in this first game, and we're going to do that because that will probably be how a rebuild works. Give the youngsters all the playing time they need. So it's Bertrand on the left with Hercules on the right, and then it's Bailly and Jones. David De Gea most obviously in goal. Substitutes obviously Romero with Lindelof, Valencia. I like to have kind of one position wing and one position midfield or the centre for the subs. So Lindelof and Valencia, Lingard and Matic. I would play Matic, but the problem is I've got to have a captain on the pitch with Herrera. Well, I guess I don't have to. I could play Valencia, but yeah, we're running up. We don't really have a leader anymore, and I think Herrera for me is probably the closest thing to it. But again, he's just getting slaughtered by Man United fucking fair weathers who aren't supporting the team anyway, and shouldn't be. I don't know. It was quite funny how Stephen Howson was doing his stream on Full Time Devils. Someone came in and go, "Oh, I'm getting so sick of watching United. I'm becoming a City fan," and he told him to fuck off. I thought that was quite funny. Wilson with Lukaku with Ibrahimovic injured, of course, and then pretty much this. Obviously, this won't be the confirmed squad once Ibrahimovic and Rojo come back. I'll probably put Rojo with maybe Bailly, and then obviously Zlatan with maybe Lukaku up front here. But I think for now, with Ibrahimovic, this is just another reason why it's Rashford and Martial at the moment, because of Zlatan's injury. So I think when Zlatan comes back against Newcastle, it'll be Rashford and Lukaku and Ibrahimovic up top, and Lukaku can obviously compensate for the lack of pace that Zlatan has. So that's probably the reason for that. I think that's pretty much it. We'll obviously increase the youngsters through the training, which I've already done, as you will tell. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I've put Ibrahim, Rojo and me at the bottom because we are out with injuries. So there is that. And the roles, obviously, Herrera is the captain, Rashford taking one side free kick with Pogba, and then Pogba does the rest, apart from penalties, because Martial is an 81 rated at penalties, somehow. So there is that. I'm probably going to go for that formation for the first game. Win, lose or draw, you know how it works. Win, lose or draw, and that is how it's going to be. So if Manchester United get relegated this season, which is unlikely, that's what will happen in this season. If we get relegated, though, it's going to be a bit of a problem if I want to continue this story going into FIFA 19 and on. But I don't think we're going to get relegated. I've kind of got a lot of FIFA experience, so it shouldn't be too bad. There is a couple of things that I don't really like about this game, like the sluggishness of the controls, the tackling is poor, the refereeing is atrocious. I guarantee you there's been about 4 dives that have resulted in penalties given, which is a bit weird. But, actually, one thing we should probably take a look at is the transfer hub and some possible people I could sign in the future. You'll have to give me a minute because I think I've just thought of 2 people I might want to add if I'm allowed to do so. So, give me 2 minutes to add those 2 in, and then we'll have a look. Alright, so just to have a look at the shortlist for some possible January targets. Tinya Neve was actually someone I was looking to bring in now, but then I found Bertrand and I've forgotten the other guy's name already. God damn it. But basically I found the fullbacks I wanted, and Tinya Neve was kind of left by the wayside. Tinya Neve can obviously play centre back and both wing backs, although this game says he only plays right back now, which is weird. Angel Correa was actually someone that I was really considering, and I wanted to do what I did last year and loan him to the club again, because he did so well on loan in FIFA 17, but unfortunately this game is really different, and now Atletico Madrid aren't looking to loan him, which probably doesn't surprise me. Antonio Griezmann is a no-go. I just put him there really for the kind of sake of, he's the big man that everyone wants in real life. But considering what has happened to the likes of Di Maria and Lukaku, why would Antonio Griezmann commit career suicide by joining Manchester United is beyond me. I don't know why he would even consider it, and I kind of hope he doesn't for his career's sake. Raheem Mahrez was someone that Man United were thinking about probably at one point. He was a right winger, so someone I was thinking about, but he was like 30 mil, and we'd already spent 30.5 mil to just get Zaha, and he was the one I wanted more than Mahrez. Mahrez has actually got interest in coming from Arsenal. So, wow. I wonder if Lady Townwall would actually take him. He's a Premier League winner, so I guess there is that. Nathan Redmond was actually another one I was looking at in the wing sense from Southampton, but I'd already bought Bertrand from there, so he might be someone I signed in January. These are all kind of bearing for injuries more than anything else. And obviously, I added a couple of old favourite players of mine in Adnan Yazai. Obviously, he's just left to play for Real Sociedad, so we can't. See, one also his player as he's directly if you pay the release clause. He has a release clause already. What the release clause of 29.5 mil for Adnan Yazai. What the fuck is that? What the hell? He's a 78, actually, which is impressive. But he could be a January target. Possibly. And Memphis Depay was another one of my favourite players who never got used, and he's just joined Lyon, so we won't be able to sign him either. I didn't have Bastian Schweinsteiger because that just wouldn't make any sense. So that's pretty much everything then. I guess what is left to say is the season restarts again, and of course we are at Old Trafford for the game against West Ham United. Just had a quick look at the calendar. We're actually drawn against Leeds in the Carabao Cup, and our first Champions League game will be in Group A against CSKA Moscow. So the impossible has been made possible as Gregg Popovich has joined Manchester United as their head coach. Thank goodness for video games. I can create stories like this. This is going to be fun. Peace out. I'll see you at Old Trafford for Game 1 against West Ham United in the Premier League. It's Season 5. We're doing it all again.